Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz Chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 372. In this game, I'm going to keep the chess engine turned off in this postmortem, rather, so we can do some guess the move quizzes along the way. There was really a lot of mistakes in this game, almost embarrassing, but anyway, that's the way it goes. So I kicked off with e4. My opponent played e5, and well, I've been wanting to play the King's Gambit lately, so I play f4, the King's Gambit. And the most common move here is taking. If you want to decline the Gambit, the best way to decline it is with the move bishop to c5. Just to show this briefly, bishop to c5 is a way of holding on to the pawn, because if you try and take here, the queen comes out with check, and this is pretty good. So black doesn't take, but plays a move like knight f3, and then it continues from there. But black has got his bishop out to a good square. Let's see. After knight f3, maybe then d3 is possible. Yeah, d6 rather. So in this game, my opponent declined the gambit by playing d6 immediately. So the other choice here, besides e takes, f4 accepting, and bishop c5 declining, or d5. d5 is the third choice here. That's the Falkbeer counter gambit, an interesting way to play, just opening things up in the center immediately. And they're all solid ways to play for black. So d6, though, is a little too passive, and it gives some advantage to white. And I play with the move d3, just defending the f-pawn. So if he takes, I develop my bishop. And I think that's a reasonable way to play. Also, the knight moves are good here. So we are pretty much out of the opening book after this move, and my opponent played bishop e7. So we'll just look at the notation tab from here. So bishop e7, we get a few normal developing moves, knight f3. I'm going to leave this tension here and maybe take or push, depending on what happens later. My opponent plays bishop to h4 check, which is not especially good here. Because I can block it. I could also take it. The chess engine actually thought taking was a good move there as well. But g3 is also a good move, and the bishop just has to retreat. There's no tactics. Sometimes this check is good in a King's Gambit, but those are in lines where the gambit has been accepted, and there's a black pawn sitting on f4 there, helping to control the g3 square. So when he hasn't done the exchange, this move is just kind of a waste of a tempo. So I get some kind of advantage out of the opening, and I immediately throw it away with the move bishop e2, which is a bad move for a couple of reasons. The first reason it's bad is because white has a better move here. So here's your first quiz. What's the move for white here? Okay, I'm giving the answer away. You can just grab a pawn here, and this is good. It opens up the f-file, which is what you want to do with the King's Gambit anyway. And not only that, it wins a pawn. So that's a good way to play. And I just, for some reason, I wasn't even thinking of that. The second reason why bishop e2 is not so great is because I've left this diagonal. This bishop might actually be better over here on g2 rather than e2, because he immediately plays bishop h3, and this is kind of annoying. It prevents me from castling. It's not a disaster. You know, the game continues about even to maybe a slight edge for white still. I get to grab some space here with this push, and his bishop really has nowhere to go. It just will take me, a lot of time. I've lost whatever edge in development I might have had, and so all I've got going for me is maybe a little bit of a space edge here. So the game continues. Let's see, king f2. I'm sort of castling by hand. Maybe I'll bring my rook over or my bishop over to chase this bishop away at some point. Goes bishop back to g4 voluntarily. Yeah, that sort of helped me a little bit. I developed my pieces, and then I decide to kick the bishop. He trades. c6, shoring up the center a little bit, and king to g2, just getting off the f-file, and maybe even going over to h2 so I can open up the g-file. But d5 happens first. Bring the rook to the f-file, and then my opponent decides to close up the center, which actually I was welcoming that. That kind of helps me out. With a closed center, then I'm free to attack on the king's side. And now we have a strategy sort of like you see in the King's Indian defense, except with the colors reversed. Now I'm attacking on the king's side where my king is, but with the extra space and all the pieces and the pawns in front of the king, it's fairly secure over here, and it's okay to just push those pawns forward. And I start doing this. So I gain some space on the king side, and I close up the center here with c4. So this is all fine, and there's maybe a slight edge to white through all of this, and I get to push on with g5, and now his bishop is really somewhat isolated over here and has nothing great to do. So he played the exchange, and then he played the move f6, and this is actually a mistake. The engine thinks the game is still about even here. I have this edge and I have the bishop pair, but the bishop pair isn't worth so much when the position is closed like it is here in the center. And it's still not clear how I'm going to manage to break through. Even though I've got a lot of space, I still have to figure out a way to break through. So he helps me out by playing this f6 move, because now I have this automatic way of opening up a line whenever I choose. So first I clear the g file, get the king out of the way, so that when I exchange I can have a rook on this open file towards his king. And he decides to take instead. All of this is okay. Knight to f6. And I just have got an edge here. I've got the attack. So white has the advantage through all of this part of the game. Knight to d8. Rook to g1. Queen c7. Yeah, so if we back up here, before rook to g1 was played, let's see, what was white's last move? Black's last move. I guess I had this opportunity for a while. Okay, anyway, I'm going to get up to move 27 here, because this was a chance I had to play a move to really have quite a significant edge here. So if you want to pause and guess the move here, it obviously wasn't the move I played, rook a to g1, that sort of lets black off the hook a little bit. So what's the best move for white in this position? Okay, I'm going to tell you the answer now. The answer is bishop to h4, h5 there. Bishop to h5, skewers the rook and drives it away from this square, and it's taking advantage of the fact that this knight is pinned here, and he can't take my bishop. He'll lose the queen. So this was, maybe my last chance to play this move, bishop h5, because the immediately next move after rook a to g1, I was just doing my build-up on the g file, and then he moves his queen to c7, and now there's no longer this pin on the knight on f6 there. So if I were to try a move like bishop to h5 here, he can just take it with the knight. So at this point I was realizing, it's trouble to break through. I kind of missed my best chance there to break through. But I still have an edge. The chess engine right here is not recommending any great move. It's just recommending simple moves like b3 or maneuvering the queen. These are, if you listen to Chess Explained's channel, he calls these strengthening moves. Sometimes your attack reaches a point where you seem to have gotten everything you can out of the position, and you need your opponent to make a mistake, to make some weakening move before you can really make some progress. And so sometimes it's a mistake to try and force things. You just kind of maneuver a little bit and wait to see if your opponent makes any weakening moves, seeing if you can provoke some perhaps. So I went ahead and exchanged, and this doesn't really help. I mean, he gets a knight. It sort of relieves him in a way, because he had two knights competing for the same square in a way, so he's got kind of a redundant piece. So I trade off that redundant piece for one of my bishops, and he gets a good knight, and I haven't really made any progress. And now the game is close to even, so black should really be able to hold this. And after my next few moves, so queen g5, I pile up on the g file, but he's got it adequately defended. I do shore up the queen side after it comes under attack, so that b3 move needed to be played anyway. And then he tries to get some activity on the b file. Good idea from black, getting some counter chances over there. And I just push the h pawn forward. And after h6, this takes away the square h5 from my bishop, which it seemed like I wasn't going to get that in as long as his knight was guarding it, but it was still an idea of something I might do. with this move h5 and then h6. The position is actually completely even at this point. So my edge has gone, but I continue on. It's not clear how black is going to make progress either. It's just the computer rates this as about even. I still have this huge space advantage, so maybe by some poking and prodding I can find some way to break through. So now I get into that phase where I'm just kind of maneuvering around and looking for ideas. And right here, this move is a mistake. Yeah, move 37. Rook to g6 is a mistake. So black here has a good move. Now the shoe is on the other foot. Black has succeeded in establishing a presence on the b file. And I'm trying to get some activity going over here on the g file still. But in my maneuvers, I've left myself open for an attack. And so what's the move for black here? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. Pretty simple one. Queen here. Queen here, check. And the king has to move, and then the queen picks up this pawn, and his rook can invade too. So yeah, this is looking pretty good, and he's got enough defense at the moment for this g pawn. In fact, his knight could even drop back to e8 at some point to help defend g7 there. So black is just winning after this move. Fortunately, my opponent didn't play that. He played king h7. Sometimes when you're under attack, you miss your aggressive opportunities because you're in a defensive mindset. So, but he definitely missed that one. Rook to g2 covering. And now, let's see, queen takes d2. Yeah, there's a little bit of more maneuvering. Bishop to e2. He did get his queen in, and this move here, queen to g3 was a good move. The computer's been recommending this move for a while. Now I've finally created a triple battery against g7, and it's a double attack. It's also hitting the e-pawn, and the engine recommends defending with the b-pawn. So anyway, my maneuvering did pay off. I was starting after let's see, king h7. The position was pretty even right about here after my opponent missed this queen d2 check idea. So a few little maneuvers, and now suddenly white is better. So it's interesting how it goes back and forth. So anyway, yeah, the move rook to b7 there would just give up the e-pawn. He tried to defend it with queen f4, and now white is really winning here after this queen takes, e takes. And now right here, there's one good move here for white to really keep the biggest edge. So why don't you take a minute and see if you can find the move for white again. It's one of those moves. It's like several of them in this game. I had like one opportunity to play this move, and I let it slip by. Just was moving a little too quickly. The move is e5. I can push these pawns forward. This is very thematic. I've gotten his pawn behind enemy lines. I can round it up later. I don't need to try and go after it right away. And what I've really done is I've freed up my pawns to come forward. And then I have a really crushing attack after this move. So that's the way to play it. Instead, I did rook f2, going after the loose pawn. He goes rook to b2 and keeps my rook tied down. So I can't take the pawn. Pretty clever. And I play rook g to g2, defending my rook, so I was free to take the pawn. But this move was a mistake, and now there's a tactic that black has, a pretty nice tactic. So why don't you take a minute and see if you can find the tactic for black. And of course, pause the video if you want time to think about it. Okay, I'm giving the answer away now. Black has this great tactic. Rook takes bishop. You can sack the exchange because after I take back, my rooks are lined up for that pawn fork. So always keep an eye out for those pawn forks when you've got one of these advanced pawns here. It's you never know when they're going to appear. It just shows up in the position right here. Anyway, he took the pawn, and I grabbed the f pawn. He took the a pawn, and I grabbed the f pawn. And now the game is back in the range of even once again. So rook to e7, there's this maneuvering. After rook e7, I no longer have the idea of pushing the e-pawn forward. He's kind of stopped that. And he's got an outside pass pawn. So there's black maybe has the edge in some cases here. So bishop to f3. I'm just doing some maneuvering here. Let's see, the next critical moment here is, oh yeah, move 47, I went past it. Instead of rook to e5, there's a better maneuver that black has here. I guess, well, if you want to think about it, you can consider what black should play here. It's kind of an interesting maneuver. It's just playing knight to d7 with the idea of coming in here, and that's just a much better square for the knight, blockading these pawns. Looks like an interesting way for black to play and keep an edge. So he didn't play that. He played rook e5 instead, just blockading the pawns. But well, these pieces are very passive. They're not really playing an active role in the game, so not the best move. So now we go into some more maneuvers here. I'm trying to get my king into position. You know, my pieces are a bit tied down. I'm trying to free them up or get my king over here to attack something. One idea I had was to get the king to this square so I could defend that pawn with the king and try and free up this rook. But then I also spotted this idea of getting my king to the f4 square and attacking his rook. But he can just defend it with knight to d7 here. And I advance my rook to g6. And he played rook e7, so just dropping back so he doesn't have to keep his pieces tied up. And right here, there's a good move for white. So see if you can find what I should have played in this position. Yeah, I still have the advantage right here, just maybe because of the precise moves that he's played. The move that continues in the best way is rook to e6. And there's an important point here, which is if he takes, I take back with the pawn, and the knight is under attack, and it's just difficult for the knight to really hold off that pawn. These advancing pawns make life difficult for his knight, and I think one of these pawns is going to become a queen. His rook is out of play. So that's the way to play this one. I didn't spot that idea. I thought about it a little bit, actually, but I didn't see that I could harass his knight and get a pawn through that. So that's quite strong. I dropped the rook back here, still kind of maneuvering and looking for a way to break through. He played knight up. And bishop to e2, king to g8, and right here, one last chance. There's one more opportunity I have here to play a good move. It happens exactly at this position in the game. So if you want to pause the video and look for a good move for white again. Okay, it's the move f6. And it's like I said, it's one of these moves that just occurs right at this moment. It's a fork, and it works because the pawn is pinned. And let's see, if he tries to blockade with his rook, I can take the knight. Yeah, so my king is putting pressure on his knight. So anyway, this is my opportunity to break through with the pawn push. And instead of that, I played rook b2, trying to come around this way, maybe invading. You know, not a bad idea. I just had a better move. He plays king f7. I went to bishop f1, and actually, even in this position, the position is still about even. And the only reason I won this game was my opponent ran out of time. So kind of a sad story of many missed opportunities, but, well, makes for an interesting chess lesson with some tactics and some ideas of how best to continue in these cases. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.